my experience with self-forgiveness before I go and read the material at destiny.co.za to enable me to fully utilise the tool provided. My first experience of forgiveness was forgiveness, not self-forgiveness, whereby I forgave my stepmother for my considered opinion that she had abused myself and my full brother as children. By doing so, it enabled me to no longer concern myself with any concerns concerning that considered opinion. When I first encountered Destiny Forum at destiny.co.za, I had been banned once or twice. I'd been banned once, though I had 2 or 3 accounts and therefore had been banned 2 or 3 times, although it was only actually once, because the 2 or 3 accounts that were banned were all banned at the one time. I then got into a discussion away from Destiny with a geezer called Zach, who was claiming claims and demanding his right to free speech. I told him free speech was not about going into another's domain and demanding to be heard, particularly when what one's demanding to be heard concerning the ones in that domain had already investigated for themselves and did not need to hear what he had to say. Whether there was any connection with my then getting an invite back to Destiny Forum. My account had been unbanned. It's not completely the full true story, that, because I'm not sure, I can't remember what names I was using, so it's quite confusing a little. Anthony, doesn't make sense. Anyway, I was allowed back. I still didn't understand the nature of the work, let's call it, and was still looking for social interaction. I was still in glee, still laughing my head off at Jack's story on the history of mankind, relieved that there were others that actually cared, and as I have found out, cared rather a lot more than I cared myself. I believed I cared. I was shown I didn't do anything of the sort, really. I am still learning that my caring was inadequate, was not a solution. I knew I had no solution. I only had realizations that everything was a mess, let's say, for want of a word. So I'm back on the forum, interacting socially, staggering into other people's threads and believing them to be introduction threads, and then discovering after a day or so that it wasn't an introduction thread, it was a thread in the introduction section, but it was somebody else's thread. And Adele it was who suggested I forgive myself. I said I will forgive myself when I get round to it. I already have experience of forgiveness and know that it is useful to utilise to release oneself from one's own stupidity. I would now say it differently. This was then. Anyway, I noticed how they were forgiving themselves. I had heard Jack tell the lines. I had read a bit of Vino's self-forgiveness on the website. I started to forgive myself. I found it extremely useful in that when faced with that I didn't believe I feared, though would prefer not to have faced, avoiding. It allowed me to stand, walk with dignity, look people in the eye, smile. Whether it did allow me to or not, I don't know. I found myself able to deal with the outside world that was oppressive, repressive, abusive. I found it assisted me to deal with such things, and slowly but surely I started to forgive myself for all manner of things that I encountered, that I thought, that I reacted to. The general things one forgives oneself for, as directed in the directives for how one forgives oneself, basically. I encountered someone on the forum then that the talk of self-forgiveness was about releasing oneself, and the comment was, about how it solidly assisted them. I can't remember the ins and outs. I couldn't understand what I said. In fact, I said, wow, well, that's an interesting comment to make, how self-forgiveness, which is about release, solidifies, which is about well, I don't know, at the time it was not about release, it was, interestingly enough, the polarity of release for me. Gibbering Anthony. Anyway, recently, very recently, I have started to write out my self-forgiveness. Now, why would it be so much more effective written out, I do not know. After I have written out streams of self-forgiveness, I have felt so much better in myself. And then 2 weeks down the line, after someone telling me that self-forgiveness doesn't do anything, and me taking issue with that, I realise it doesn't do anything in actual fact, though it must do something. It's a great unknown for me at the moment. No less, I am discovering it is a useful tool to enable me to self-honestly realise myself. And my next step is reading the damn material concerning self-forgiveness so that I may utilise it fully and further assist myself in my process. Thank you very much.